Welcome to Squatch-D TV, where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch-D TV. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, January 11th, 2026. It's 1:11. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, along with the greatest co-host one can find right down there, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Steve. I appreciate the build up there, but we don't want to disappoint people, so. But
And of course,
proud to be here with you.
we have our guest right down there also, Mr. Dan Kegley. Hello, Dan.
Hey, Steve and Chris. How are you?
Good. So here we are in another wonderful day. Hey, the weather seems to be pretty good, Chris. How about you?
Well, it's a little chilly here. It's
Not here.
definitely, it's been in the 20s, I think, today, so not too happy.
It's been in the high 30s, almost 40 today up here.
Well, yeah, that's not bad at all. Yeah, dude, I'm waiting for some more of that 60-degree stuff to come in. I miss that. That's great.
Yeah, still going to be a few months before that shows up. But well, just think we're about, another month and a half. It's March.
Right.
So let's look at it that way. Almost, just about.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to Groundhog Day. I want to know if we're going to have an early spring or late spring.
You had to say Groundhog's Day. I got a very good joke about that, but I'll tell that off air.
Okay.
But anyway, so let's do our chat roll call here.
Yeah.
In the chat tonight, we have first in today was Mitch Hargrove. Hello, Mitch.
Hello. Hey, Mitch.
Roy Longley representing the lurkers.
Roy.
Danny Weeks is in the house. Reverend Quantum Bigfoot. Hello.
Rev, good to see you.
Grant Rasha, what's going on?
Grant, Danny.
And there's S. Kegley. Is that somebody your wife?
That is
your
someone
wife.
very important. Yes, that's
That's
my
your
wife.
wife. Yep, I realize what your wife's name is in your bio.
That's right.
So
Welcome. Karen Fisher. Hey.
Karen Fisher says hello. Hey, there it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
That wasn't
ma'am.
her. That was my two dogs.
Well, they have their own YouTube channel.
They should.
Oh, yeah.
Don Come Out Jr. Hello,
Hey, Don.
good to see you, Don. Mick, the mighty Mick, is in
Mick.
the house. Grasshopper. I don't see him yet,
There
but
he
I know.
is.
Oh, there he is.
He's in there.
Grasshopper's
Hey,
here.
Grasshopper.
Sandra Piper is here.
Sandra.
Traveling with Jim, my good buddy Jim Lansing. Hello, Jim.
Jim.
Good to see you again. Wolfman Willie. Hello, Ron Meldrum. What's
Wolf.
going on? The B-Tron. And of course, who can forget the Susie Monster also in the house?
Susie.
And our good friend Gianni is in the house. Gianni, good to see you.
Good to see you back. Welcome.
BFFG Bigfoot Research. Hello, welcome. I think we said Wolfman Willie, but we'll say it again. Wolfman Willie is in the
Willie.
house. Helix Khan, also known as Boris Khan. Corny Goo Goo to you as well. Jen, our bouncer, is in the house. I'm sure her assistant Baron is nearby, as is mine. Who? Stop licking your paw. Okay, now he just gave me the side eye. Sally, what's going on?
Sally?
He gives me the meanest side eye when I tell him to stop doing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you're his person. He's not your dog. You're his person.
No, he follows the rules. He stopped. He side-eyed me and stopped.
Waiting for a treat.
Well, he's a Shih Tzu, so they love giving the side eye.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's completely facing away from me. He's mad. Are you mad? I guess not. Anyway, so tonight, let's jump right in this because Dan is a very interesting person, and he's got a great website. And we'll get that. Actually, it's scrolling across the bottom as we speak.
Yep.
So let's do Dan's bio. And, Chris, you can run color commentary on the bio.
Be nice. Be nice.
So Dan Kegley is an investigator with the BFRO and an associate member of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. And to his endeavors, he brings a background in various kinds of research. For several years in the mid-1980s, Kegley worked as an undergrad with Dr. Stephen Hopp at Emory and Henry College in ornithological studies. Wow, I said that right. Of the vocal behavior of the white-eyed vireos relative to phases in the nesting cycle. Sounds exciting.
Yeah, it really was.
Following graduation, he conducted a statistical analysis of the variation in daily volunteer counts at the hawk migration count stations along the Blue Ridge and published that work in The Raven, the Journal of the Virginia Society of Ornithology. I said it again right. While a student, he developed outdoor education classes for 4-H campers and public school students centered on Project Wild, the curriculum sponsored by the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. He participated in the Virginia Breeding Bird Atlas and the Audubon Christmas Bird Count. I'll ask that later. What's the matter? They can't do an Easter count? Kegley is also the past president of the Archaeological Society of Virginia and has a particular interest in early North American prehistory when humans were most intimately connected to their natural world on this continent. He had 2 papers published in the ASV's quarterly bulletin about his work on a prehistoric village site and historic location slated for demolition. He completed the Holston Rivers Chapter Virginia Master Naturalist Program in the spring of 2013 and is a National Weather Service certified storm spotter. Hey, look, rain! No, I'm just kidding. For 23 years, Kegley worked at a small-town Virginia newspapers. His positions including reporter, news editor, photographer, darkroom technician, general manager, nighttime janitor until 20. I added that one in.
That's not inaccurate.
Until 2012, when he departed journalism for a position in the Smith County, Virginia Circuit Court. He began in the criminal division, became the records vault supervisor in August of 2015, and was a master deputy clerk. He retired in 2024. And he conducts his private research into Bigfoot reports through his Holstonia Bigfoot investigations, whose name he borrowed from his friend, the late historian Dr. Jim Glanville, referencing the Holston River watershed in Virginia and Tennessee. He is the vice president of the board of trustees of the Museum of the Middle Appalachians in Saltville, Virginia. And, of course, he and his wife, Sarah, hello, Sarah, we know you're out there, has been married since 1985 and live in Chilhowie, Virginia. So welcome.
I'm tired now after doing all that. Can I lie down for 15 minutes? I'll be back.
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, no, hang on. We'll give you the wake-up call.
Okay.
There we go.
Well,
Right.
and I'll tell you, I'm going to add in what I like best about this guy is because he looks at the Bigfoot phenomenon from a standpoint that we're checking and checking on or looking for a biological organism and not some sort of magical woo, here come through the portals creature. So I appreciate that.
You know, and here comes the jokes. This is one thing our chat is, our gaggle is great for.
Oh, yes.
Richard, Bigfoot, Florida guy. Good to see you, Richard. Says we need janitors. And Mick says darkroom technicians do it with the lights out.
Hey, you got that right. Yep. And the red light's really kinky.
Mick, behave yourself. Anyway,
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Chris Hilton said, I don't know, but he sounds pretty lazy to me.
Yeah, there was at least,
that's good cover for a lazy guy.
And hello to somebody that we haven't seen here before. Hello, Carl.
Carl, welcome.
Good to see you. Connecticut Bigfoot Research. Hello.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, I feel like there was probably you could have probably added another line or two on that
Oh,
page
Grant.
of accomplishments.
Grant said he went to a horrible zoo that only had a dog. It was a real shit zoo.
Oh no,
That's good.
Oh, Grant.
I'm gonna steal that one. I'll just let you know.
Platypus.
That's okay.
Did they have a platypus?
No, yeah, you know, you know, they have a zoo in my town, but they had to close it because the chicken died.
Yeah.
Anyhow, oh, by the way, for that one. Anyway, so Dan, let's start off. What got you interested in the Bigfoot field?
I had a book when I was in third or fourth grade, maybe, and I thought maybe I had it, but I've not been able to find it, and I'm not really sure which one it was, but it dealt with mysteries and myths and monsters and that kind of thing. And what I remember particularly about it is back on something like page 64, there was a chapter on Bigfoot, and there was a pencil sketch of Patty on the opening page. And that sketch scared me. I would hurry past that page, but it also at the same time fascinated me. And I just kind of sat on the issue for years until the internet came along, and I found the BFRO and started reading some of those reports, some of which came from right around where I grew up. And I began thinking, there seems to be something to this, just exactly what. So fast forward a number of years, and I found myself kind of overwhelmed by all the anecdotes. It was like an endless sea, and I couldn't get footing anywhere. And so when I came up with the idea of Holstonian, to take a step back from anecdotes, the information in those, look at the anecdote itself, then take a further step back and look at the entire body of anecdotes, what begins to emerge from that level. And that gave me the first really solid ground that I felt like I could stand on in this field. And it's kind of become my comfort zone.
Well, Reverend Quantum Bigfoot, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yes. No, wait a minute. Dan, do you have a YouTube channel?
I do not, or at least not yet.
But he does have the website there, Rev. It's
yeah, but scrolling across the bottom.
Yeah.
Now, what I like is how this starts up. It says, Hostonia Bigfoot Investigations is an independent, method-driven research project concerned with a systematic examination of anomalous biological reports associated with the relic hominin hypotheses, undertaken without presuming the existence of an unverified species and grounded instead in evaluation of claims, observations, and data sets through established principles drawn from ecology, ethology, anthropology, and field biology. Materials presented here constitute both a working archive of methods, analysis, and a reference materials developed to shift inquiry away from anecdote and assertion toward constrained testable inference, with particular attention to documentation quality, observer effort, environmental context, and the known limits of available evidence. Readers may begin the methodological framework that governs this work, proceed to the individual research papers derived from its application, or consult the curated reference library and ongoing updates that record its development over time.
That pretty well says it.
Yes.
Yeah, this website, it's awesome.
Grant's like, what, no proctology?
Oh, wow.
No, Grant, nobody wants to be a proctologist. I mean, what kind of job is that? You start at the bottom and you stay there. Anyway, jeez.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, you know what I would also add to that? Now, I know when you're talking about anecdotes, are you talking about eyewitness testimony?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I being, the investigator, I often tell people that if you're hearing the story from a person firsthand, it's not an anecdote. That's direct evidence, because that's coming directly from the person. Now, if we talk about the Osman account or the Ruby Creek thing or the Chapman farm or anything like that. That's kind of anecdotal because we're telling that secondhand. And secondhand accounts are anecdotes, but firsthand accounts are actually evidence, direct evidence. And I don't know if you knew that technically, but
well, I use anecdote as a little bit broader term to refer to anything that is not a set of data that's not already numerically distilled. And so anything that falls outside that, anything that's not been analyzed.
So my whole my major field in this is behavior and psychology and behavioral psychology, being a trained interrogator. So a lot of times where a lot of people don't think there is data inside an eyewitness testimony, there actually is. They're reporting on height, they're reporting on color, they're reporting on time of day, they're reporting the weather, they're reporting. So you do have a data set with direct eyewitness reports.
Right.
And I would strongly encourage you to start incorporating that into the data sets as well. If you
That's a really good point. When you have that much contextual information in a report, it greatly enhances the value. What is even more important is when someone goes out, spends some time, records the time, the context, the weather, time of day, all of that. If they will report when nothing happened, you have the negative data, then that really begins to define the positive data, which is really all we've got. The data sets, VFRO and Bigfoot mapping, are presence only data.
Right. Yep.
And when you can distill that through a filter that includes outings where nothing happened, then you begin to be able to frame those things up and get a statistical analysis foothold in those.
That's a good point.
There
is no null data. It's kind of like when I was doing the paranormal thing, we would take EMF readings of the house, just static, so we get a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we go back and all of a sudden we're in the same place and now the EMF is off the chart, so that's kind of good point. Good point.
Well, the weather data is a good thing too. That's pretty cool, because if all the sightings happened like when it was 65 to 78 degrees and nothing happened when it was 105, then you'd know, well, maybe they don't like to come out when it's hot.
Mm-hmm. One thing about research design is repeatability. You want to get to a point where you can set up the same conditions or put yourself in a place where those conditions are likely to exist, and then repeat similar observations in those contexts over time. The next thing is replicability. When another person can go out and take your data set on context and measurement and then have the same type of experiences for themselves. Once we get to that point, then we're almost into anthropology, because we will have gotten a good enough handle on this organism's behavior, especially if it's leaning toward some degree of humanness, a hominin, which I pretty strongly believe that it is. Then the research arena gets wider.
Hello.
There's more sciences that can come in.
Hey, Dr. John Baranchuk just floated in. Hello, Doc.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Welcome.
Hey, John.
That's an interesting way of looking at it too. The data will tell all, and all. We made our living on this continent. By early on, our settlers, they learned the paths of these animals and their habits, and they could monitor them. They could know when would be the best time to go hunting and where. And these creatures got to have a pattern if we can just find it, nail it down.
Yeah. It occurred to me somewhere along the line that there is this aura about Bigfoot. We kind of go, oh wow, like it's a phenomenon outside known science. And I think if we're going to get a handle on it, we have to look at it as scientifically measurable and verifiable through the sciences of ethology and anthropology and ecology and those things. And once you see it through those lenses, then you feel like, yeah, this is something we could get a handle on. We don't have to just stand back and be in awe of it.
Yeah. And Sally brings up a good point over here. Sally says, in a consultation with a cultural anthropologist years ago, she said one of the Bigfoot field's biggest mistakes is lack of one master database and consistent data gathering by all researchers parties. That's true.
That is true.
That's true. Very good points.
That is true.
I think the BFRO has done a lot to put the sightings together and to classify those different types of sightings.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they've really put a lot of data together out of that. Matter of fact, I think, in my opinion, I think Steve did more to bring the data out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know,
with his methods.
Well, and before we came on,
Chris,
before we came on air, we were talking about terrestrial with the Sasquatch Data Project. She's doing magnificent work taking those data sets and parsing what she can out of there. She is limited, and I saw a post just yesterday, I think, where she acknowledges the need for negative data. So go out, do your standard collection of data, formal procedures for that, and then report when nothing happens.
Right.
And yeah, again, that makes sense. It does.
And you know, Richard, Bigfoot Florida guy, along with David Zagan and myself, we all look at things more from a forensic side of things or from an investigator's position, because that's, you know, that's our background. And I've always said this, my job is to take that data and pass it off to science and let them meld it. Kind of like the way, as an investigator, we do the investigations, hand it off to a DA or an ADA, and they meld it into the case. So our job at this point is data collection in any kind of hypothesis that we may have.
Yeah, and do it with rigor and test those hypotheses. If one falls apart, then reframe it and take another swing. Right. And now that my buddy Dr. John Baranchak is in, I want to give him credit for actually nudging me down this path. We were on Bigfoot investigations or expeditions several years ago, and he was talking about the need for scientific methodology and statistical analysis. And then he came out with a book about 3 years ago, Psychological Horizons in Scientific Bigfoot Research, and that's been reissued as Grasping Sasquatch. It's available on Amazon. It is a rich, dense, scholarly resource, and I recommend that to anyone who's listening and interested in upping the Bigfooting game.
And Mick says, actually, if you read the reports of the VFRO, you'll find a lot of data wherever possible, as long as the investigator records it. That's the key.
Let me stop there. Let me stop there. Not as long as the investigator reports it, only if the witness reports it.
Well, you get, yeah.
Because the investigator is just following up on a report they're given, and sometimes it will lack all of the data. You know, it's asked like the weather conditions or the time, or you'll have people that are filling out basically a form, and you know, if they make those certain aspects of that form mandatory, then it would not be omitted. But some of the slides are not mandatory. You know, name and email, and not even a phone number is mandatory. A lot of times you'll get a report with just an email to it. And as Dan, being a BFRO investigator, can attest to, it's really frustrating when you get this report and it's just got an email to it, and you email it and nobody ever gets back to you about it.
I'm glad you brought that up. That has happened time and time again.
Yep.
To me.
And to me, you take that report and put it right in the garbage, because if they're not willing to answer follow-up questions about it, really not much you can do about it. I had a guy who had reported these vocalizations. I had gotten I heard the vocalizations. I was not impressed. They sounded human to me almost. And I was meeting him, and the morning of meeting him, he canceled it, never got back to me. I'm like, okay, well, fine. Yeah.
Yeah. You do have to weigh that. I think a lot of BFR reports probably get submitted in the height of emotion, even when they're submitted years after the occurrence. Maybe it just bubbled up in memory. Maybe someone had just seen a documentary about Bigfoot and all that coalesces, and they think, wow, I've got to get this report out there. Then once they submit it, that emotional level drops down. And so when you get the email from the investigator, they're going, that was yesterday.
Right. Yeah. We got that, Mick. I'll get it, Steve. We got that, Mick. When the investigator records it, that's true. But when you're also looking at the database, you're going to have to go through and sift through individual reports to compare data from one report to the next, and that's what takes up a lot of time.
Yeah, and the other thing too is when they follow up on the report. There's just some data you don't get necessarily from the person.
Yeah.
Matter. I mean, you can't show up on a scene and record the data because the event is already passed. So that data would not be valid for that. But I get you, and I do on my investigations. I what I generally will do is I will interview the subject on the phone at first. I have a written account now. I'm interviewing them on the phone, and then eventually, if that all passes, I will go visit them. But I will definitely check and see if their weather data corresponds to what the actual weather data is by the stations reported. So if somebody says, "Oh, it's pouring rain that day," and it comes out that area was sunny that day, or vice versa, there's a little problem with the story there.
Right.
And I know Sally says there's a lot of reports that on the BFR that are not posted online.
Yeah.
And that is because follow-up is difficult at times for some people. You email them, you phone them, they don't answer, they don't get back to you. Sometimes it takes longer. And sometimes the events that they are reporting are sometimes decades old.
Yeah. Bigfoot Florida guy makes a good point here. Yeah, I would like the reports submitted ASAP instead of years later. And that's what you get a lot of at the BFRO, which, not knocking them, okay, but a lot of those reports are from, some guy watched Finding Bigfoot or something and says, oh, yeah, I remember back in 1972.
I had a sighting back in 74.
Yeah.
And that same person may not have any idea that BFRO exists, and so they're tooling around on the web one day and they run across it and, I need to report what happened back in 89.
Or even in 2019. It's still one of the most frustrating aspects of this was in 2003, I had gotten the Pridgeon video, a.k.a. the New York Baby video. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Dan. That's the one where something is large walking background, something jumps off of it and starts swinging around in the tree.
I have seen that. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the first one to investigate that. And the guy reported it 6 months after reporting it the first time. And the problem was he got an investigator at the time. I don't hear this guy in the field anymore, so excuse me.
No, they'd get you a drink there, but
No, I don't have much of a drink left.
Okay.
It's the nasal drip coming down from my.
I know. Just hang in there.
So, he reports it to this one guy. Says, I got this video, yada yada yada. And I'm like, and I never heard from anybody. But before I actually talked to Doug, I talked to the guy, the investigator. I go, did you ever talk to him? They go, well, he sounds kind of goofy. Well, what do you mean goofy? Well, Doug talks like this. And, there are people that talk like this, right?
Yeah, right.
And because of that difference in voice, he scratched it off. And I asked him, did you see the video? No, I never asked for it. I just talked to him once. I had a guy's goofy, and I hung up. And that was it. Done. So I said, well, I'm thinking to myself, you got to look at the video. So I talked to Doug. Doug sends me, after a few weeks, he had to convert it to a VHS tape, sends it to me. I eventually converted to DVD media, which eventually got transcribed to, because at the time we were just in that phase of digital media. So it still wasn't digital, but you could watch it as a DVD because I transferred it to a DVD. And it was like, what the hell was that? And he answers all the predicate questions. We do all the follow-up. But the problem is he found it in 1997. And it took him like 4 years. Then they were just reviewing films, and there it was. Like his fiance was like, what the hell was that? And he was looking at it, and then it took him a little bit to find the BFRO. And again, so by the time I had gotten the video, the area was a private land. It was in dispute over some sort of bank action or whatever, but I did manage to talk to the former landowner, Mike Lembo, and confirm that, yes, whatever Doug said about the insurance and the pets and the animals not being allowed into the grounds was all true. And, that's... Had that been reported in 97, we could have gone out right to the tree, collected any physical data, physical evidence. But even a visit to the area, I think I visited the area in 2010 because Finding Bigfoot wanted to do an episode about that video. So I actually went with the field producers up there, and I got to see the land. And the one beautiful thing is that even though when I had first gotten the video, it had been turned into an ATV riding. So there was people riding quads and freewheelers at the time on the property. So it kind of screwed that up. But now that the area kind of was not an ATV park anymore, it started to grow back in. The amount of wild strawberries, wild blueberries, wild raspberries, and the old apple trees still bearing fruit there was just amazing. And that gave me all the answer in the world why something would be there. Despite all that noise going on across the lake, it was still on the other side of the lake doing its thing and collecting its food. So
evidently they like apples. A lot of stuff going on over here in the chat. Let me get there was a question here by Kaiju Ninja. He wanted to know from Dan. He said, Dan, what's the strangest report that Dan has received? And let's just do that one first. Dan, is there any reports that you think were strange that stood out to you?
Trying to think. The ones that I have received or heard about tend to kind of cluster along what I would call typical. There's bipedal, big, hairy creature,
right,
or I've heard this kind of sound or knocks. So I haven't had anything that's a real head scratcher. I've had evidence presented that was just completely ambiguous. Of course, technically it all is, but footprints that you really can't tell, is that a footprint or is that just where the grass had died? Or, so I've been fortunate to not have to go chasing wild stories. And
yeah, that was the second part of the question. I think Kaiju Ninja wanted to know if you'd run across anything out there that was definitely a hoax.
I don't think so. I look at everything initially through that lens. I'm working with a lady now who has some things that happen, and she's in a cluster of homes, and there are folks around that I think might try to perpetuate a hoax on her, but I have not seen anything that clearly indicates that yet.
And Sally says she's making a point here, and I want to put this up because it's a good one. It says true, but unused reports are still data. Perhaps, for example, 10% are boring road crossings, or 5% are too old to look into. It's still data capturing the extent of the phenomena. And I would agree to that to an extent, Sally. It's good. But old data, though, may not be as accurate as something that, somebody telling about something that just happened, yesterday or within the last few days of a new sighting.
Okay, Gary, let's put up Gary's comment.
Plus, there's we can also go back and check out anything new for physical evidence. Gary says, in my knowledge, what I heard about the BFRO, I wouldn't trust them. Well,
Okay, so hold on. Let's look at that statement by itself, Gary. In my knowledge, what I heard, that's not your knowledge. That's somebody else's take. So it's not your knowledge. It's what you're hearing. And, everybody has negative detractors.
yeah.
So, you know what? I was with the BFRO from 2003 to 2006, and I've been with them again since 2012. So it's been 13 years right now since I've been back with the BFRO. Not once have they ever, or anybody has ever done anything. It's more of a confederacy than it is an organization. And if you know the difference between a confederacy and, say, an organization, each investigator has their own way of doing things. Each investigator has their own freedom to put things out, what needs to be put out. And nothing is ever done without involving the investigator to begin with. So if something big is going to go out, the investigator is contacted and talked, and a discussion happens. That has been my experience. So I don't understand what people saying, I don't trust them. What do you mean? Like there's some deep secret BFRO army that just goes out there. What say you, Dan?
I would like to know a little bit more about that question. What has been heard? What makes BFRO seem untrustworthy? I do like your comparison between confederacy and organization, because it is very loose. There's not an internal structure. There's the top, and then there's this field of investigators, and they do bring their own methodology to it. That would be a strength if BFRO prescribed an interview template, reporting template, check the boxes, fill in the blanks, so everybody is getting the same information. And then if there's some way, most BFRO reports, or reports in general, are opportunistic. Somebody's driving down the road and they see something. I don't think there's many reports out there where someone actually went into the field and said, I'm going to spend the next 5 hours. Here's the methodology I'm going to do. This is the equipment that I'm going to bring to bear. And then they write that report. If they heard things, saw things, fine, document that. If they didn't, even more importantly, document that.
Right.
That would strengthen BFRO as a methodological instrument as much as a database.
Yeah, but I think the BFRO database is mainly just witness reporting, so it's not really.
And the BFRO allows me to be me, right?
Right.
It's like, let's take a look at Will Boving. That whole trail cam picture thing.
Mm-hmm.
Matt was like, here, I'll give you his phone number. If you want to get him on your podcast, that's fine. I'll give him your phone number here. It was like, yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Yeah.
There was no holding back of anything. In fact, there was nothing but cooperation. And that was direct from the guy at the top. Now, I understand some people don't like him. And I get that. People have different personalities, and not all personalities come together greatly. But you don't base that on one person necessarily. Well, he's the top of the, yeah, but has nothing to do with what goes on in the field. And like I said, that's why I like to explain the organization to people, because they better understand that it's not a dictatorship.
Right. I wouldn't base an opinion on a whole organization just because I thought some person was annoying.
I think an organization would be less trustworthy if there was a directive or an impulse from the top to shape your reports this way. There is none of that. investigators are totally autonomous.
Right.
I mean, they have to do a good job, or their report's not going to get approved. But there's no preset conclusion or any expectations that have to be met by investigators, which would introduce bias for one thing, and introduce an element of untrustworthiness. Very democratic. Very democratic.
So I got 2 starred there, Chris.
Gary Johnson says, on several podcasts through the years, heard bad things concerning the BFRO.
Again, Gary, you say my knowledge. You're hearing. It's not based on your knowledge. If you've never dealt with them, then you can't say it's based on your knowledge. It's based on somebody else's opinion. And, whatever, like I said, you're basing the whole thing about the BFRO on likability of the guy at the top. That's it. Let's take the next one, Chris.
Wait a minute. I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
And I want to say this to Gary. Gary, a very wise person, told me one time. He said, when you're dealing with I heard and somebody said, remember, those are the 2 biggest liars in town. So be very wary of what I heard and somebody said, that information. Be very wary of it.
That's right. I agree.
Roker says, I submitted a report to the BFRO back in 98. They never reached out. Made me not to want to touch the subject for years.
Well, that happens, and don't take it personally, because we are a volunteer organization. I am not on the BFRO database every day. I'm on it about once a month, and I look to see if there's some new reports.
Yeah.
And if they're not in my area, and there's an investigator not in that particular area,
that's the trick. Yeah,
it won't get in. In other words, if you, I'm trying to think of Sullivan County, New York. You may or may not get an investigator in Sullivan County, New York. It's too far for me to investigate on a daily basis. I mean, we all have jobs. We all work for a living. Or a lot of us do. Some of us are retired.
Rub it in. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not rubbing it in. I'm rubbing it in on myself because I'm not retired. So don't ever take that personally. It may be because there just isn't somebody in your area, or they're just too busy, and then after a while it gets forgotten because it gets lowered down in the queue before it's accepted by an investigator. Just don't take that ever personally. We do what we can, and there is always a backlog of cases.
That is true.
It's not going to do any good to make a report if they don't have an investigator in your area.
Yeah.
They won't be able to do the follow-up. It makes sense. I looked through their database. I reviewed just a few minutes ago for Kentucky sightings, and I looked in Hart County, Kentucky, and they have 0 sightings listed in Hart County, Kentucky. And I can think of at least a dozen off the top of my head, but they weren't reported to the BFRO, or the ones that were reported probably weren't investigated.
So 1/2 of the money is raised by an expedition goes in Matt's pocket.
Matt's pocket.
Wow. Number one, unless you have access to the actual books, I don't know that as a fact, number one. And number two, let's say it does. Server maintenance and maintenance of the BFRO database is not free. So if, part of that is probably offsetting the cost of the BFRO database. Because my website is not free. Cost me almost $600 a year just to have a website.
Yeah.
Not with an elaborate adding database and all the other. And I don't know if he's housing his own servers necessarily, and I believe he is. So that all costs money. So, and then if you're going to take a little bit of it as a profit, well, he is advertising for it. So, doing the advertising for it. So, I don't know.
Well, I would throw this out in a free market. If we can come up with a way to legitimately make a buck, let's do it. If you look at BFRO expeditions as not National Geographic quality data gathering expeditions, but just a good time with friends and new friends and camping, spending a weekend in the woods, we could call that entertainment. And people have been selling entertainment since people learned how to laugh. And so on that level, I don't have an issue with monetizing outdoor experiences. You can pay an outfitter to go elk hunting or shoot antelope out west,
or fishing guides.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't see any harm with it either. If somebody wants to pay a fee to go on an expedition,
If you're getting something in return, there's no crime in it.
Now, I would see a problem with it if you paid money or paid a fee to go on an expedition, and then they had somebody go over in the woods and knock on a tree or something.
Right.
Now, that's a big problem.
That is.
I wouldn't agree with that at all. But
and one instance of that, even suspicion of it gets you put out of the BFRO.
Right.
You don't get to come back on expeditions.
Right.
Zero tolerance of that.
And Sally made a comment also, Chris, I think you started that one.
yes, Sally said, my BFRO bud says reports in the flats are also cherry picked. So again, that's lost
yes
data.
and no, Sally. They're cherry picked because a lot of the reports are so. Well, I was camping, and Dan, tell me how many times you read this. Well, last Thursday I was out camping with my family, and in the middle of the night, we heard a tree knock, and we knocked back, and we didn't hear anything. How many reports do we get like that?
There's a lot like that. Or I saw this shadow run through my backyard, and looked like it was 8 feet tall. Alone, as an investigator, that's not going to cause me to pick up the phone and call or send an email. If that person also says this same event has happened to me on 3 different occasions in these 3 different locations, then I'm going to say this may be something worth looking at. So it's kind of on the onus is on the reporter or the person filing the report to report something that is genuinely interesting and that can in some form be substantiated, either through an interview or possibly going out and finding physical evidence. If it's just suggestive, not many investigators are going to pick up on that.
And Grant says, I thought Bigfoot's like blueberries, not cherries. Well, I don't know, Grant. I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard choke cherries. I've heard that. We don't have them, not that I'm aware of.
You knew who had the choke? You knew who had the choke cherry story, right?
I think so. I think I can recall that.
Joan, get me a Snapple.
Yeah. I've heard that. So
you've queued you set me up for that, you guys.
Given the source, I don't know, but I have heard that.
Okay, we still got 2 more starred ones.
Oh, making me work, Steve. Gary said, I heard more or less over there. Wait a minute. I heard they more or less take over that area where no one allowed, if my memory serves me right. They take over the area. I guess he means the BFRO or...
That's redonkulous. Because a lot of these, again, Gary, you're hearing this stuff. Again, it's not based on your personal knowledge. I'll give you a great example. Sightings happen in the Adirondack State Park. A lot of good ones. Never once has there been a BFR army dispatched there to take over the area and not let anybody in. It's public ground. Now, if it's a private residence, regardless if I'm on BFRO aegis or my own Squatchdetective.com aegis, you're damn straight I'm taking over that private property because that becomes important because it becomes a study area. When you have a sighting, you want to treat it like a crime scene almost. And that's what you need to do. There's no BFO Army, Gary. There's no, all right, we need to get down there and let's coordinate. I mean, people work for crying out loud. We don't get paid to do this.
And what I have seen is actually the opposite. Within the last 10 days, I have, through social media, gotten 2 investigators together down in Florida. One contacted me. He said, I want to study this particular area. I've heard there are BFRO investigators in there, and I don't want to interfere with what they have going on. Can you help me get some clarification? Well, I found this other BFRO investigator down there and got in touch with him. He was very familiar with the area. And he said, no, he was working in a certain area, but there was no prohibition against anyone else coming in. But the momentum of that whole conversation was a person wanting to avoid where someone was already working, whether they had staked a claim, put a fence up around it or not, just being respectful.
And there's another one, Chris, too, just a quick one. Yeah, it's not like, it's not like, and going back to Gary's question, it's not like, how are they not allowing people to go in? It's not like it can be enforced. If there's a group of Bigfoot researchers, say in the Adirondacks, I can walk in the middle of the forest and go, I'm here.
Right.
Well, you can't be here. The hell I can, it's public land. And they can't do nothing about it, right? So it's all based on scuttlebutt, rumor. I don't like the guy at the top, so I'm going to make up this story. I've heard it 1,000 times. I use GoDaddy to host my domain names. My website is actually hosted by another company, Weebly, or now it's Square. So,
yeah, I think about giving the location out. That depends on if you're doing if you're researching the area yourself, or you're just somebody that had a sighting and you're like, hey, I want to know, I want to share this with people. Okay. But if you're an investigator yourself and you have an area that has got some activity in it and you don't want, 5 billion people stomping around it, well, then maybe you should keep that quiet, keep that to yourself. Because once you share it, you open it up to the world, and there's really, unless you own it, there's really nothing you can do about it.
Well, if you do have a study site, and there are people coming and going across it, that's an opportunity to gather comparison data. What does it sound like when a 150-pound human walks through here as opposed to something 5 times that weight?
Right.
What other kinds of characteristics are present when humans are around? So that just helps refine when we think we're getting data from an anomalous organism out there.
Right.
Another blue one up there from Kaiju.
Let me scroll down. You go ahead and get that one, Steve.
Just go over to the starred tab.
Okay, gotcha. Do you think it's okay if Todd is charging so much?
Yes, I do. I do think he is charging too much. I think somewhere between $3,000 and $3,500 just to go out on a romp with him.
Personally, I wouldn't. But if somebody wants to go out and have a big time on the weekend, what was this, $2 or $3 grand or something like that? I can't remember. We talked about that at one point in time, but I don't think I would.
Right. And, from what I've observed, the BFRO is willing to help out with other projects as well. If asked, all you got to do is ask.
Yeah, that's right. Southern Sierra Bigfoot, we got plenty of public lands out there. That's right. Yep. And Bigfoot Florida guy says, I keep my exact area secret to prevent hoaxers from creating evidence. That's another...
But certain areas like Research One, the people know a lot of people know where it is now. Yeah. But when I go, where I go, how I go, what time I go is all secret a lot of times. So it's the best I can say about that. I did have one cat that used to be in our chat room said, I have a friend. What's your friend's name? Well, I just have a friend that put recorders up all in. And I go, well, that's illegal. That's a crime. And if the Rangers find that, they'll confiscate those recorders and trail cameras, whatever. You can use a trail camera. In my particular area, you can use a trail camera on public land. But when you're not present, you have to remove them. You just can't leave them out for days and weeks and stuff like that. Because now... trail cameras record video with audio, and that can be considered electronic eavesdropping. So because there is an expectation of privacy. If you're taking a walk in the woods with somebody, there is an expectation of privacy. And if a trail camera happens to catch something that which should be rather private, that would be an invasion of privacy. So that's why they don't allow trail cameras in public places, unless they're, of course, DEC cameras.
So if you're going to have an affair, go to a concert.
Right.
Get your picture up on the Jumbotron.
Yes, we did a meme on that one, too, with Bigfoot. 2 Bigfoots with the Jumbotron and that one.
Well, you know, personally, I wouldn't want to leave my trail cams out much in Kentucky because people tend to steal them. And
So, I got to hear this. Dr. John says, Dan, myself, and 2 others experienced one of the most harrowing encounters out there on a BFRO expedition.
Wow.
Well, is that an opening or what?
Well,
Tell us about this.
and we have to do this first. Okay, please tell us about this.
Popcorn.
John and I and 2 or 3 other people, he has somewhat better memory of this than I do. We were on an expedition in East Tennessee. This may have been the expedition that we met on. But anyway, we had gone up from base camp up the side of a mountain. We were going to take a logging road to the left and walk half a mile or something and come back. Another group was going to go to the right around the mountain, and we were going to meet. So our group had gone out the mountain as far as we were going to go, and we stopped a little bit. And on the way back, we stopped a couple times just to have a conversation and walk a little further. At one point when we stopped, there was immediately on the slope above us what sounded like a tree being pushed over, and either that tree, a big log, or displaced rocks rolling down the slope toward us. And there we could see dust and you could smell loam. As John put it, the other guys scattered like cockroaches. On the other hand, I quarter and face the sound. I put my hand on my K-bar knife, and I've taken some ridicule over that. Like, what am I going to do to a rolling log or a Bigfoot with a knife? It was instinctive. I wasn't thinking. What I was thinking is, even if I die on this spot, I'm going to know if that's a Bigfoot coming down that slope on us. And so John used that in his book, talking about preconditioning yourselves to manage the fight and flight response when you have an encounter. And but yeah, we've thought back about that a number of times. I didn't see this happen, but John recalls the next day a couple of investigators went up and found a large footprint and some smaller ones on the margin of the road where we were. And then below us, we couldn't really tell this at night, the slope dropped down maybe 8 or 10 feet and then leveled off. And there were a number of apparent juvenile prints down there. And so one conjecture is maybe we stumbled into a nursery and stopped at the wrong place, and the superintendent standing on the hill didn't like it. Open for interpretation, but that was a memorable evening.
Wow. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool that you go in these Bigfoot areas and all of a sudden there's trees being pushed over. I had a very similar experience out in McQuabbin, out in, I believe it was, Savoy, out in Savoy in Massachusetts. Had a very similar experience with Norma. And I wanted to go out and take a walk, and as we're walking, something pushed a tree over, and you could hear it stomping off. I mean, it was just like, yeah, wasn't that strange? I got another blue comment up there. Chris?
Yeah. Mick says, Steve, some states are one-party consent states, which allow people to be recorded regardless of their consent or privacy concerns.
That is very true. New York is a one-party consent state. I'm very well versed on that consent. States like Oregon and Washington are two-party consent, so both parties in a conversation. The problem is that when you set a recorder out in the woods, in the wild, and you capture 2 people talking, there is 0-party consent. You are not part of that conversation, so therefore it's electronic eavesdropping. That's why. But very true. I can sit there and record a phone call from somebody anywhere in New York State or to another one-party consent state. When you call a two-party consent state, you should judge on the err on the side of caution and inform the other party you're recording the conversation, just to keep out of trouble. But if I call somebody in New York State, yes, I cannot tell them I'm recording the conversation because I'm part of it. The problem here is that a trail camera will pick up a conversation where nobody is aware of the recording, and that's where it becomes eavesdropping. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Okay. That'll get all the legal stuff out of the way. We don't want
That's
anybody
right.
getting in trouble.
That's right. Yeah. So leaving a trail camera out in public lands, no bueno here in New York.
Yes, K-bar knives are sweet.
Yeah, Reverend Quantum Bigfoot says it is good manners to inform in advance of recording. If something slips out, then it can't be disputed. Yeah. Good advice. And sometimes you're not able to though, right?
Well, yeah, especially if you're trying to elicit, like especially with my my profession of being an investigator. You know, there are times you make some phone calls to people that, you know, they're making these claims, and you get them recorded making these claims, and then there was one case, actually, it was an attorney general case with the vehicle, and I got the finance manager on the phone, and he's lying through his teeth, and then, you know, you get the official thing from them, and then you get the recording, which says the exact opposite. And guess who won that one? Not them.
Yeah.
Right.
And where's it at? Roker says, I've been hiding from Bigfoot for years. Safest place to hide from Bigfoot? Hang around Bigfoot researchers.
That's funny. Well, we'll give you that one. I've had my fair share of experiences. I think Dan has too, but and Chris. But yeah, you want there's a few researchers that, you know, Bigfoot when I hang around with, because nobody ever. Richard says maybe that's why I haven't got Bigfoot in the trail cam video. I didn't get his consent. Although, remember that video I showed years ago, Chris? Remember the crazy people that were saying, you know, you don't want to put up trail cameras. Would you like trail cameras in your house? And then they had this woman come over with a recorder.
Yeah. This is the gifting thing, right?
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Bigfoot, I'm leaving a recorder here.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you don't want to be recorded, you can just turn it off.
Yeah.
And these people were dead serious, Dan.
Yeah.
Dead serious.
Wow. It's amazing where dead seriousness can end you up.
It's, yeah, they were a little bit out there.
You know, I would just hide in the woods, right? I would love to hide in the woods, and when they put the recorder down, as they're walking away, to pick it up and chuck it at them.
No, just go turn it off.
Graham says they sound legit.
Yeah, I can't even remember. It was a couple. I can't even remember their names.
So I meant to tell you, Chris, I am on antibiotics now.
Good.
So that's why I'm
good. Yeah. Yeah. If you haven't been tuned in this week, Steve has been sick this week, and he is
with the sinus infection,
recovering from
Well, Steve, let me ask you this, and this might help a lot of people out there. Do you have recurrent sinus infections?
Not recurrent.
Okay.
I've I get them. I mean, this is the first one I've had probably in about 5-6 years.
Okay. Well, for anyone who does, I have found that adding a garlic supplement daily tends to keep those at bay. So I'm not going to sell a particular brand, just any of them.
And vampires.
Vampires. I haven't seen a vampire since 1996.
It's working. It's 96. Okay, well, that's wow.
Nice. No. Grant says, don't do the sinus surgery. I hate the doctors, so I don't. I'm not gonna jinx myself. I just say this, but I don't do hospitals. So.
Okay, Rev, we're going to have to put on our tinfoil hats if you start bringing this stuff up. Ivermectin in the water supply. No, I think they do still put fluoride here in the States, fluoride, but I don't think they put ivermectin.
Welcome, Tessa. Good to see the Bat Mom in the house. So, Dan, what is your plan going forward? I mean, with the website, when is your long-term goal?
I have a number of papers outlined. At least I have a concept of a plan. I do have a list of topics that I want to continue with, advancing the theme of what can we learn from the data? How do we collect that data? How do we safely make inferences? What inferences can we not make? And then at some point when that feels complete, like I've covered all the bases, then I may transform that into a book. Maybe. That's down the road, months.
Wolf Lord Brand says, on an unrelated note, Mr. Kulls, my mother and I both listen to your show, and she would like to know if you would like to see the Sasquatches she felted from wool. She thinks you would like them.
Yeah, well, I certainly email me at admin@squatchdetective.com. Love to.
And Kaiju Ninja said, wait, Dan saw Vampire in 96?
Somehow I knew that was going to come back to bite me.
No, I was just drinking too much one night, and I was at a ball game, and I didn't see a vampire, I saw an umpire.
Oh.
No, 96, really, that's just when I first started paying attention to their absence. Just a concrete date. For analytical purposes. Totally arbitrary.
Okay.
Yeah, they're out hanging with Dogman now.
Yeah.
And Mick is going to go full aluminum foil with us here. He said maybe they should put ivermectin in the water supply. Well, I can't argue with that, Mick, except some people may be allergic to it. But I'm sure there are a lot of people out there in the United States and around the world that have worms, internal parasites, and they don't even know it. There's one way to tell. Okay, if you're ever on a backcountry road and you come over a little dip in the road and it drops off real quickly and you get a funny feeling in your stomach, that's worms. Yeah, if you get that funny feeling in the pit of your stomach when the car drops in that dip, that's worms.
Guys, I think we just skated right past the end of my segment. Can I be excused?
So, what is? I love asking this question. What's the craziest case you've heard?
The craziest case. Well, I think the one that I'm working on now is pretty interesting.
Yeah,
because
I forgot about that. You do have a very interesting case you're working on.
The lady who lives there reports 2 tree knocks, just exactly 2. When she comes home late in the evening between 1 and 2 o'clock at night, she'll pick these up on her security cam. I'm still trying to sort out, is that something external or is that something going on with the mechanics of the camera itself? Because those microphones, electret microphones, have a lot of self noise, and sitting just millimeters away from the IR camera and the sensors and that circuitry.
So
I can't be sure that we can separate stimulus from the tool.
So let me ask you a question on that one. When you hear these tree knocks, where is she in relation? Is she in the video, or is her vehicle in the video?
You can see, if not her vehicle, you can see the sweep of the headlights as she comes around the curve into her driveway.
So
and then
Right. So those noises, could they be tires rubbing on an abutment of some sort? Because we, up in Research 1, we'll hear this, like, sounds like, poof, poof, like a tree knock. But what it is a vehicle hitting an abutment as they come down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is something to consider. I had thought, is there something mechanical with the car that happens at that particular time, like application of the brakes or the transmission gearing down? It does, though, sound like, and we need stereo microphones to confirm this, it sounds like it originates from the woods opposite where she's coming in on the other side of her trailer.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you said that it's banging on her trailer too?
She has reported that. She said, this was a couple years ago, about that same time, she said the trailer was shaken violently. And I looked that up just to make sure there were no seismic tremors reported about that time. There's nothing on the website about that, but she said she had 3 or 4 male friends try to replicate that, and they could just barely budge the trailer. So something interesting happened there.
But she hasn't had any visual. Has she had any visual sightings?
Nothing clear. She saw something one day that, to her credit, she said, I can't swear it wasn't someone in a Carhartt hoodie.
Gotcha. See, yeah. And that's one of the dilemmas as an investigator, is you hear all these like weird little things going on. But as a former private investigator, there are a lot of false positive types of reports. You will, like, as one of the, it would never fail as an investigator, 4 or 5 times a year, I would get a phone call. My phone is being tapped. What phone? My iPhone. Okay, did you try resetting it? I've reset it. I've gotten new phones and they tap it again. And you realize that the person's just so dead set that they're being monitored for whatever special reason. So I tend to get that a lot with people, is that they have such strong confirmation biases on it being a Bigfoot that every little noise sometimes will happen that way. I'm not saying that this is the case here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it really grinds me when they don't have a sighting. Like if you said, well, I saw, I've been seeing shadows running around and I've been hearing, a little extra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this lady's pretty conservative. And when there are things like, just recently, she put a infrared camera on her window looking out, and she got what she suggested looked like eyes reflecting back. And I explained that was lens flare from that IR being picked up, being pressed up against the glass. It's just the light bouncer. And she's totally good with that. She has, when I've pointed out alternate explanations, she's never pushed and said, no, I think it's this. So she's an ideal kind of person to work with.
Good, very good. Yeah.
Something going on there that she's not aware. She's not trying to figure it out. That makes sense.
Yeah. There was a video I had analyzed a while back. It might have been a few years back. Because God, when you analyze as much stuff as I do, but that's what it was. It was a trail camera pressed against a window. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was a paranormal thing or what, but whatever the case was, it was actually showing a reflection behind it, not in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I forget what that one was, Chris. I don't know if we talked about that on this show. I think we did, but it's years. I mean, we've been on YouTube. We're going on our 7th year on YouTube, so that's...
I do remember talking about those reflections from the glass, but I can't remember what year that was.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Kaiju Ninja says, has Dan possibly seen a Sasquatch himself?
No, I have not. I've had experiences I can't explain. And that just added to feeling like I was drowning in a sea of ambiguous information. And so I needed to find a way to start getting a handle on that, find some solid ground to stand on. I'd love to have I would love that personal confirmation of a sighting. And I was hoping that John Baranchak and I were about to have one that night, but don't know. Could have been a tree just happening to fall at that moment. But suspicion,
kind of odd.
Timing is suspicious.
Yeah.
You hear about trees falling in the woods, but it's kind of odd to be there when one falls.
Well, and the amazing thing is like, that's not a one-off. I mean, there's been a lot of researchers who've been in the woods and the tree gets pushed over.
Yes.
Or falls. Very strange that activity actually occurs.
Well,
in the presence of all these Bigfoot researchers, myself included.
Well, this site I'm working on, the last time I was over there doing overnight recording, there was a tree fall. Middle of the night. And it was a noisy night. There were knocks and smaller percussives like twig snapping just went on all night. And I'm thinking, this is one noisy patch of woods. And so I thought, I need to get a handle on that. I want to do a recording protocol where I go out for like 30 minutes, maybe in that location, with the same setup, each place, go to a different location, 30 minutes, make note of the weather, all those conditions, and do that over time, and then come back and see, was this particular patch of woods really that noisy? Now, personally, I used to hunt, and I've spent a lot of time in the woods hiking and camping. I've never heard that much percussive noise in the woods unless the wind was blowing. And this particular night, it was dead still. Right. Empirically, there seems to be something going on there, but until I can put some numbers on it, I can't say that.
Right. Yeah, the whole tree falling in the woods thing is kind of, it does happen, obviously, and it can happen naturally without anything else going on. But usually there's some wind or some weather involved, or maybe a lot of rain. But when you're out in the woods, especially in an area that you think it may be a good area for Bigfoot, and you hear one fall, well, that could be, a natural occurrence. But if you hear another one fall 5 minutes later, maybe it's time to start checking things out.
Especially if they're getting closer to you. You need to pay attention, whatever's happening.
Or one comes down a hill at you.
And we got this comment here. It says, Dan, you remember our friend coming up on something sleeping on a path?
I do. The first and only BFR report I have filed came from a gentleman I know. He's a teacher here in the county where I live, middle school teacher, very solid individual, maybe incapable of telling an untruth. And he's very careful how he framed this story. But about 3-4 years ago in the autumn, he was going hunting to his blind, and it was still dark, but getting light. He did have his flashlight, and as he's walking along, the far edge of his light captures something dark over his trail. And he thought, well, wonderful. I've walked up on another hunter. And he stopped for a moment and he said, well, usually when you encounter a hunter, they'll wave or make a noise or clear their throat or something. Nothing happened. And so as he's walking forward, he begins to think, well, this is a bear. I've come up on a black bear sleeping on the trail. And that was the thought he had in his mind when that black form went from horizontal to vertical, up and up and up, to stand higher than his own 6'3". Wow. And he was trying to decide at that point what to do. As he reported it, the being, whatever it was, turned away from him and took a few steps further down the trail in the direction he was going, and then walked uphill a few steps into a rhododendron thicket. And he said, that was strange because a bear running from you will run downhill. And then the final part of this episode, as he walked past that, he decided to go ahead and hunt. He was weighing whether or not to go back home, but he said, no, it's a perfect day. I'm going to hunt. I'm here. I'm going to hunt. And as he passed that grove or that clump of rhododendrons, he said he heard a sound that sounded like a man clearing his throat for 7 or 8 seconds. And that kind of put a chill through him, but he went on. But even in talking about it, he said, I'm not going to say that was Bigfoot. He'll say, I don't know what that was. But he said, before that, I did make fun of my wife because she used to watch Bigfoot shows, and I would kind of snicker and go on. But he said, now I'm not so sure, but I'm not going to call it Bigfoot.
So as an investigator, do reports like these really solidify your belief that there very well could, because you have your own sighting. So does that kind of solidify your belief on the more pro, yeah, I think there is something out here because of, having an eyewitness encounter, an eyewitness like this person's character. I mean, to me, that is the quintessential, like, yeah, that's one of the reports that if I heard that, I'd be like even more solid that, yeah, this thing exists, despite having my own sightings. Yeah, but
reports by people you trust are a proxy for your own experience in a way. I mean, you can judge your own self-credibility. Am I going to try to fool myself, talk myself into something here? But when people that you trust are telling you things, that's a lot more easy to put some weight on than someone you don't know.
Yeah.
But I still live in the shadow of a doubt. But I think, as Dr. Meldrum said, there is something out there worthy of study.
And we all do, unless we see one.
Yeah.
And I know that factually because I lived in the shadow of doubt for 14 years doing this until I had my very own first sighting where there it is, standing there watching my base camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all of a sudden, like, wow, it really does exist.
Yeah.
There it was.
People have asked me, Dan, what would you do if you saw one? And I always answer, I hope that I would have presence of mind to simply sit down, not run, not point at it, maybe even try not to make eye contact. If this is a primate, I want to make myself non-threatening, non-intimidating, and hopefully arouse a bit of curiosity in it so that possibly I can prolong the experience, have a sighting over a little bit longer time than just a fleeting glimpse and it's gone. But who knows? As Dr. Baranchuk says, when that moment happens, even though you've tried to condition yourself, you may hear some sound effects. Who knows?
If I didn't stop, and I often wonder this, if I didn't stop to have a cigarette and shine my light in both directions up and down the road, I would have never seen it. And it felt, I think it felt confident because it was further away. It was far enough away that I didn't threaten it. So but the minute I put the light on it, it looked at me. And I froze. And it wasn't until I just shook my light a little bit, it turned and it walked into the woods.
And it was behind you?
No, so we have a base camp. And we had all been out hearing things all night long. We came back in to eat. It was our meal break. It was about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening. It was our meal break. And for people who know my camps, it's very lighthearted. Everybody has a good time, but we debrief, and then we start having a little fun, talking, laughing, chortling, whatever. I go out to go out to my vehicle, which is on the dirt road, and there's maybe 50 feet of wooded area between the camp and the dirt road. And it's October, so the leaves have dropped. And I go out to my car and I look down the road, which is where at the time a lot of the activity was going on, was down the road. But then I spin around and look up the road to the south. And they're standing next to the utility pole that's on the side of the road. There's this 8-foot black, sagittal crested, eye shine back right at me when it turns to look at me. And there it is, just standing there and freezes. And I can imagine that what it's seeing is this bright light being shown on it. Mm-hmm. Or this light. It's not the brightest of lights. I mean, this was 2011, so I had like a 300 lumen krypton bulb, which was pretty expensive back in that day.
Yeah.
And I just stood and froze, and then I just shook it a little bit and just turned around and walked in the woods. Now, what makes it really interesting was the minute it walked into the woods, the base camp radios me back and says, we got a lot of movement going on to the southwest side of the camp, which is where it had walked off into, to the south and to the west. So we get out and we have the team measure, or, we try to gauge a height, and it was about 8 foot. And my former Marine sniper guy who's on my team saw where it had stepped in, and we actually got video of the dirt still falling in where it had stepped in and the scuff that had walked into the woods. And I didn't see that video. I didn't see that part of the video for 3 years. Oh my God. So yeah, that was my first sighting.
Wow.
So it's an area that has had a great number of sightings, and my favorite one I like to tell, and I'm sure people have heard this, was the guy who was down on the north side, which was downhill, and there's a parking area where there's a couple of campsites. And, of course, the whole area was emptied out. It's mid-October, so nobody's camping up there. It's, very, 40-degree nights, 30-degree. Nobody, I'm going to go camping. It's going to be 38 degrees tonight. But a few years earlier, actually, I think it was 2003, there was a guy in there pulled into the area to take a nap, which is not uncommon. Every once in a while, you will go down there and see somebody just sitting in the car taking a nap, whatever. It's quiet, it's nice, it's peaceful. You can get your thoughts out. And he woke up and he had to urinate. So he woke up, opens up his car door, and it hits something. And he looks down and he just sees like this hairy, maybe foot, but hair. And he looks up, and looking back at him is Bigfoot. And it just looks down at him and just turns and walks into the woods. And the guy's like, I would have never believed it if I hadn't seen it. I mean, he goes, I was like, I was frozen in my car for like a good 20 minutes after. I was like, close the door, lock it. I'm going to sit in here,
Yeah.
Steve, you've opened it up for questioning, so some people have. Jen said, Steve, when it went back in, would it have been behind where the outhouse is?
Where it went back in, it would have been between the campsite and the outhouse, maybe behind it. My recollection isn't really that great of where the outhouse, but I would think it would be between the outhouse and where the camp was. And yes, one of the things too, and I know because some of my YouTubers here have been to research one with me a couple of years back. So we had a really big event a couple of years ago, got a great recording out of it. And there was a lot of activity around the outhouse, and that has always been the case. There's an outhouse by the camp, and that's always been the case. There's always something kind of lurking just on the other far side of the outhouse. It seems like at times, and I think that's a way they come in. They're not seen because it's protected, kind of like by the low ground as it comes in. But yeah, that's the general direction. It went towards the outhouse. I think there's another one too. There's a bunch of them.
Kaiju says, Steve, you saw the outline, or was there detail?
I saw the outline and the big. Of course, you're talking about 100 feet away with only a 300 lumen light. Pitch dark. But I could see the outline very clearly, and what really pierced me the most was those eyes, these dark orange eyes. Won't quite say red, but they were dark orange, looking back at me. You could see them blinking, as it's looking at me. And I was like, really. Any more questions on that, Chris? Or we good?
I think that's got everybody's on Steve. Wait a minute. I don't know if this is related, but Lori says, Steve, it always seems if you shine a light on Bigfoot or UFO, it scares them. or cautions them, although UFO, are they like, hey, you want to talk?
Well, I can tell you, as far as the Bigfoot is concerned, I can't explain about the UFOs because I've never necessarily, I believe I did, but I really don't have much experience in the UFO field as far as that. But as far as the Bigfoot, no, it didn't want to talk. The minute I moved the light, it boogied, which would indicate to it maybe I was moving, or maybe, because I didn't really take it off and I just went like that with it. And maybe it saw my outline when I brought it down, because right now it's looking at a bright light. I take the light off and now all of a sudden it sees me standing there looking at it. Oh, time to go. So that's what I think happened.
No, it was the outhouse. He was not a portal potty.
Weird.
Yeah, it went towards the outhouse, and people heard it, and that's why it's like, well, if a Bigfoot can cloak, why didn't it just not cloak and just disappear?
There has been a lot of activity, oddly enough, around that area, though, Steve, right?
Oh, yeah, that area was... I just didn't pick an area and say this is my research area. This was the home of the Weitzel encounter back in 2000, where his wife and him went off trail, heard something vocalize at them several times, and they decided we better get the hell out of here. And as they're walking out, they're getting escorted out. John could see it moving from tree to tree out of the corner of his eyes. And it was still vocalizing at him a few more times before it finally stopped. And John had been a camper up there, at all times, all hours. So, I mean, he lives up there. He lived up there when he was alive. Yeah. So that's what brought me up to that area. And to me, the escort thing was very territorial behavior because, as I've done these, what would Sasquatch do and what would Sasquatch do Volume 2, we talk about primate behavior in particular areas. And when they're in territories, that's when they get kind of standoffish. They push over trees, they escort people out, they scream, make a lot of noise. They want people out of that area. So it's either that or it's a foci activity area, which, Bigfoot may have been doing something that just felt obligated to get somebody out of there too. Like maybe there was a young nearby, maybe they were mating. I don't know, but whatever the case is, in this case, they showed an aggressive behavior, and I figured that's where I got to be. And then a few years later, the encounter with the guy with the door and that, years back in the 70s, on the other side of the ridge, there was another sighting by a couple of people, father and son team, while they were hunting. And it's not very far from the Whitehall proper, the Bigfoot capital in New York. So there's all these little combining factors that made this area pretty rich. And that if they're hanging out anywhere, this would be a good area where they'd be hanging out.
I want to put up a couple of comments that we've had I thought was interesting, and then we'll get back to a question for Dan. Jen said earlier when we were talking about the tree falls, Jen said, I know one person stays in the woods for a week at a time in one spot and has on 3 supplications upon leaving this places had a tree fall. So that's interesting. And I think that's growing more common. I would think, Jen, the reports that talk about tree falls while an investigator's out in the area doing an investigation is interesting.
That'd be great if there was a way that we could survey the universe of hunters, hikers, campers, and say estimate the number of days or hours you have spent in the woods in your lifetime. How many times did you hear a tree fall?
Right.
And then plot that against the number of reports we get in this field.
Yeah.
Now Gary said something that got me a little agitated. Let's put that up.
Okay. Gary Johnson says, good thing you haven't seen the big guy, Mr. Kulls. You would have went home and covered yourself over and never step outside again, kind of saying.
Well, let me kind of say this. I have seen the big guy. If you were not paying attention to the last 7 minutes of the soliloquy of my sighting.
Gary may have been out of the room or something.
Maybe. that wasn't my only sighting. I had a second sighting a year later of a 5 foot juvenile, right? In the same area. And guess what? I've had rocks thrown at me. I've had trees pushed over. I've had screams. And you know what? Not once, including my sighting report, my sightings, not once have I ever gone home and covered myself up. Because I'm not built like that. I'm an investigator. I'm a former martial artist, so I have pretty good control over, when the fit hits the shan, I'm pretty cool about things. It's the daily stuff that agitates me, but when the fit hits the shan, I'm the guy in the room that just sits there and goes, okay, we need to do this. And that part of that was my firefighter training, my paramedic training back when I was very young, too. So let me just address that comment there.
And, yeah, John had a good one. He said, we then watched peepers from the cabin for 20 minutes. 15 people watched them that night. So that was interesting. Earlier, they were talking about eye shines, you know. I thought that was interesting.
Somehow I could never get in a position to see that. I heard other people talking about it, but I did not see that.
And Kaiju Ninja says he had a question for you earlier, Dan. So what are Dan's thoughts on the paranormal side of Bigfoot sightings?
I think a couple things. One, its adaptive abilities to navigate terrain, stay out of our sight, are so finely tuned that they can look paranormal. And that's as far as I'm comfortable going. If it's something that I can't quantify and measure and explain simply without invoking a whole lot of other unknowns or even just one, then I just kind of leave it there. I don't discount reports of those things. I respect all reports. It's a human experience, and I bestow the respect that commands. But if I can't get a handle even on the ambiguity of it, I have to leave it alone.
We can't really investigate, I don't know, something outside the biological, I would think.
Until we know enough to devise tests for that phenomenon. And there's a lot of things in this world that give us unexplainable experiences that quantum physics may one day uncover. Not that quantum physics tries to figure out paranormal phenomenon like apparitions and things, but I think as a side effect of growing understanding of quantum physics, we're going to start understanding these other things that go on. I don't think we're anywhere close to knowing everything about the universe or this world or our own perception of it.
I did start one there by Dr. Don. Yep.
For the panels, tree knocks, the sounds of a stick striking a tree, lounge clicks, vestige bellows in their body, or something else.
I believe that's tongue clicks.
Tongue clicks.
Yeah.
Lounge clicks. Yeah. Tongue.
Oh, hang on. We got the lounge. Let's get the lounge music
Lounge
going.
clicks. Okay. Everybody relax. Hey, I just call it like I see it, okay?
Yes, Chris is not fluent in typo. God, that's a good question. I mean, I would think originally I thought they were tree knocks, but then I've heard that chest popping sound or that popping sound that gorillas make. I don't know. It's something I am not 100% on. I'm going to stick to tree knocking for now because they do elicit responses occasionally, but I don't know what the rest of you guys think.
I like the word percussives. It gets us off the hook as far as actually trying to characterize what happened.
Yeah.
When you hear reports of someone doing a tree knock and they almost immediately get a response tree knock, then you start thinking, if that was a Bigfoot, had it curated the perfect acoustic stick for these occasions and just happened to be standing next to a tree that's going to make the appropriate sound back. And so with that line of thinking, I think it's something physiological. They got big hands. They're either cupping them, making a sound, or a flat clap, chest clap, mouth clap. I don't know, but if the reports of immediate response are to be believed, you have to think it's something they can do at will. They don't have to find the right stick or right rock.
Makes a lot of sense. And Sally said she had rock clacking in the swamp. So I think they're definitely a sort of like a mouth sound, like.
Mm-hmm. And presumably with the skeletal structure these things have, they could probably make I've known kids that could make my ears ring doing that kind of thing.
Right. Well, I had one experience with my friends coyote hunting one night, and we were playing the Wounded Rabbit tape, which is a sound that brings predators in. It's a very horrible sound. Yeah, it's worse than that, believe me. But and during this time, we all heard from the woods, the fence row behind us, or been to the right of us. It sounded like a foot stomping the ground. Okay, and it was so loud. And we left right out. We were like, okay, what was that? I don't know. Let's go. We left. We went to so we were out in my front yard about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, stomping our feet, trying to imitate that sound. We couldn't do it. We could not recreate the volume of that noise. And I don't know what it was, but I'm thinking it could have been related. I'm not certain, but we couldn't recreate that noise whatsoever. But Sally's got a good point here. She says some people are really freaked out when they see one, and can't relate to people who aren't.
Or
haven't. Yeah, typo. I've talked to lifelong hunters who say they'll never go into the woods again after seeing one.
Look at our own audience member, Jay Fritz. Good example. He didn't go there. He didn't go back in that woods for years.
I think if you're a Bigfoot researcher, I think you should prepare yourself for an encounter in case you have one.
Which may or may not include an extra pair of underwear.
Yeah. Size-wise, it's like you're 5 years old and you're looking at your adult father. So there's a big difference in the size of the creatures between those things and us. Mm-hmm. And that is scary in itself. That's really frightening. Knowing this thing it's just in your mind. It's in your mind. This thing could grab me and rip me in half if it wanted to, easily. And knowing that is frightening.
Yeah. Which is the reason why I knock a lot of those videos where people are filming this going, oh, look, there's a Bigfoot. Oh, look, son. And you know what? When your first reaction would be to get your son, your little child, the hell out of there. Because here is this 8-foot primate that's not supposed to exist, that resembles the boogeyman. Yeah. And you're going to sit there and go, oh, look, there's a Sasquatch. Look at him peeking at us behind the tree. No, you're not going to do that.
I mentioned the book Grasping Sasquatch by Dr. Baranchuk. He devotes a whole chapter, maybe even more than that, to that prior conditioning to be ready for when that encounter happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I froze when I saw mine. I didn't run. I didn't get excited. I didn't say a word. I'm not moving. Mm-hmm. And then after a period of maybe 30, 40 seconds goes by, and I'm like, well, let me just try to move it and see if I can get it to move a little. Instead, it just walked off. Like, damn. But the fact is, it walked off, but it still was stalking us and watching us, because there was a later in the night, I was with 2 other researchers as part of the crew, going down to actually where it had tromped off to, which is down into a valley. And I start looking around with the flashlight again, going, when did the state put markers down here? And all of a sudden, those 2 red markers went and turned. And everybody, and the 2 girls, researchers that were with me, were like, what the hell was that? Hey, yep. There it is. So, yeah. And there I really didn't get to see an outline too well. Because there's a lot of foliage, but you can see, here is what looks like reflectors. And it's just a tapetum lucidum coming back at me. And I'm very certain they have a tapetum lucidum based on what I've observed. I get a little agitated about, well, I think they bioluminesce. No, we don't have the physiology or the metabolism to bioluminesce as mammals. So, well, how do you know it's a mammal? Well, it's not a reptile, for crying out loud. It's got, that's what boggles my mind is I think they're a people, not an ape. Well, wait a minute. We're Homo sapiens. We're apes. We're part of the great ape family. So, and for them to be a people, you would have to have the exact same DNA. And we know their foot structure is different, so they would have to have different DNA. And you just go round and round in some of these arguments with people that don't understand science.
Mick gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Mick. You're too kind. Thank you so much, Mick.
And guess what? We will be doing a seminar again. I think I'm going to pull one off next Thursday. No, I can't on Thursdays. That's right. I'm still doing doubles on Thursdays. But I think I will pull one off maybe on a Tuesday evening.
Kaiju Ninja said, can you prepare yourself to see a Sasquatch? Yes, you can. And during the sighting, you can prepare yourself. Because even though your feet... Even though your feet want to take up and take off as fast as you can go, you can remember and will yourself to keep them planted.
Let me give you a couple of scenarios. Well, let me give you one scenario. Very years ago, when I was in my youth, I was probably about 27, 28 years old. And at the time, I was maybe 185. I wasn't fully grown up at that point in time, and now I've kind of shrunk back down a little bit to my high school days. But I remember having this shoplifter come into a store, and he would grab colognes and he would put them in his coat.
Let me interrupt you, Steve. Lori Gibbs gifted 1 membership. Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Appreciate that. Go ahead, Steve.
So he had gotten me once. It was really quick how he does it. So and the reason why I knew this was because he was about 6'5" and probably weighed 360 pounds. He had all muscle. I mean, his arms were huge, his big, boom, right? But young. I mean, like I was 27 at the time. I would say he would be in his early 20s. All right. So one day he comes walking in the store and he grabs the bunch and he starts walking with his friend who's buying a drink. His friend's like dwarfed by him. So I grab a couple of guys. I said, just follow me out, back me up. Well, they saw the size of the guy and they turned around, they walked back. They left me by myself. No fear. You are coming back with me.
Best of luck, Kulls.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were both written up for safety violation for doing that.
Should have.
But I was like, if you didn't want to do it, tell me ahead of time.
Right.
And say, okay, I'll come with you, and then change your mind and not let me know. Yeah, that's my danger. So I bring the guy down, and of course, it's the training that I had in martial arts that saved me for that. Is that I'm not going to fear him. I already have a game plan. If he tries to go after me, I'm going to take his knee out. That's it. I have a plan. I know what I'm facing. And as an investigator, did that, over the years when I was working as a store investigator for years. Brought him back in. He came back in, no problem. Reason why? Because I just looked right at him. I go, you're coming back in or I'm going to embarrass you right here in front of everybody. All right, man, I'm coming back in. And in the back, he's sitting in back. It turns out he was the center for a college football team locally.
Yeah.
That's how big of a dude he was. He was the center of a college football team. And I go, why didn't you try anything? He goes, I don't know. He goes, man, you look very confident, and I don't know what you know. I go, well, that's a good thing. You would have lost your kneecap. And that was the end of the story. But yes, you can prepare yourself for dealing with incredible circumstances, incredible odds, and things that scare the shite out of you. Right? You can prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Again, I'm the crazy guy who was running into burning buildings too as a firefighter.
Yeah.
So
Grant said you should be prepared to see one. If you're researching and looking for one, have a plan and practice it. And those are good. That's good advice, Grant. Yeah, have a plan before this happens.
I've looked this up. I mentioned earlier Dr. Branchak's book, Chapter 5 and 6 deals with things like counter conditioning, fight or flight. He talks about self-hypnosis, put yourself in that situation in your mind and how you would respond. And the key to a lot of these things is just practice and repetition. It's like folks who shoot competitively. They do it until it becomes automatic. So when they're in that situation, they don't have to think about this step and this step and this step. They're on target when the moment demands it.
Yeah. Focus. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the preparation, it's all in preparation. And that's why you see another reason why a lot of the videos I think are fake is because these people are trying to act surprised. Again, it goes back to, look at the Sasquatch. Like they're surprised, but they're not acting like they're surprised. And that is the big tell because we all remember the Bigfoot peeper case. You know, how he's filming it for 8 minutes. And then his wife came in the room, saw it and screamed. So I got my pistol, right? And, well, if you needed to get your pistol, you would have done that first, not take a film of it for 8 minutes. Just because your wife screams, now there's an urgency all of a sudden.
Yes.
Right? But your wife was there. You didn't go, hey, honey, look what I'm filming here in the window. Yeah, you don't say nothing. What if the wife goes out in the front porch?
One of my favorite fakes is the guy that flies a drone over a supposed Squatch walking through the snow, and you hear the footfalls clearly, but you don't hear the drone rotors. And I'm going, this isn't right. This is not right.
Yeah.
He didn't put a lav on that Sasquatch, so you only hear it.
Yeah,
pretty good.
That guy, he's from Ohio, isn't he?
That
From Ohio.
Could be.
I think that's the lawnmower guy that had the Bigfoot tooth a number of years ago, and he said, "Oh, I got the DNA report with the Bigfoot tooth," and I just ripped him to shreds. And then
Jen said, "What's the name of Dr. John's book and where?"
Yeah, hang on a second. Why don't you put that up so we can all see what that book is again? We've had Dr.
I have the first version.
Oh, your mic's hiding it.
Yeah, let me get the glare off of it. It is now released as Grasping Sasquatch, and you can get it on Amazon. That's a great resource.
Yes, we've actually had Dr. John on the show before, too.
Good.
So, yep.
Great guess.
Same here, Dr. John. Good to hear from you.
Welcome back, too, anytime. That would be, love to have you back. Oh, no. I'm looking for another question, and the end times music has started.
Well, hold on. I just off time. We got another question up there?
End time. I think we've got all the starred ones.
Okay, final chance for any questions, folks.
I think that's it.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Yeah, I know when I met Dan online, I knew, and I saw his website. I went, I need to get this guy in the show.
I first met you in Kentucky on one of Charlie Raymond's
Oh, you were on that
events. Yeah. And you had a great PowerPoint about the home range and the defended range and all this. And I wrote you and asked for a copy of that, and you sent it to me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we've rubbed elbows before, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? That was in between the night before my presentation. I fought the whippoorwill and I won.
Yeah, that was good.
Ron Bowles, Steve, it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
Do you mind? The whippoorwill shuts up.
Was that the year he talked about this being a great time for Bigfoot because in the Depression, the populations of deer and turkey were just about eliminated because people had to have them to survive. Yeah. But now with wildlife management practices, the populations of both are just burgeoning. They're everywhere.
Right.
He makes a good point. It's a good time to be a Bigfoot.
Yep. Okay, Chris, now it's time to...
Lots of turkey, lots of deer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I hate it, but it's been a... Oh, hey, that's different.
I can't get it to reset and go back.
That's good enough. It sounds good just like that anyway. Again, we want to thank Mr. Dan Kegley for being on with us tonight. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Guest. We
been
appreciate
an honor.
having you. Appreciate having you. Oh, no. The honor's on this end.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank all our members and all our audience members
Hold on.
there for being with us tonight. Hold on. Oh, Danny. Dan, any feeling about migration patterns?
Question from Danny to Dan.
Oh.
I think that is something to parse the data and try to figure out based on presence-only data, based on time of year. But there again, we need the negative data when they are not seen.
So here's...
But I don't have any personal insights into that.
So I do, and it's also in my book, Bigfoot: A Scientific Examination. And what we've learned from other primates, particularly the Native Americans in North America, which is a large primate that exists in North America other than a Sasquatch. And it depends on the food. It depends on the weather, climate. And not that they migrate south for the winter, like the geese. If in New York, we know that they're in the Adirondacks, in my part of the Adirondacks, during the spring, summer, and fall. And then all of a sudden, in December, we have a drop-off in sightings. And then they will slowly pick up April, May, June, July, and then July, August, September, October seems to be the big months. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because the Adirondacks, in this part of the Adirondacks, the eastern Adirondacks, have a lot of maple, birch, oak, and they all drop their leaves. So there's no cover for them in the wintertime. So what we've done, realized is that they migrate over to the Green Mountain National Forest, which sightings pick up in the wintertime over in Vermont. And the reason why is the Green Mountains have a lot of deciduous fir trees. So there's cover for them. There's food source for them. A lot of the deer head that way too as well in the winter. And that's why, and what's in between the Adirondacks and the Green Mountains, actually the Adirondacks and the Green Mountains, it's Whitehall, New York. And that's why they get so much activity, because it's the crossroads of that area.
That's interesting, because you've controlled for human activity. Who's out there to see them at those different times of the year?
Right. And this is something my mentor, Bill Brand, who had been doing this since the early 70s, had seen this pattern. And on my own, I saw the same pattern. And when we connected, we kind of realized that we were saying the same thing. So we see that pattern go back and forth over the years. And like I said, the Native Americans would have their summer homes and their winter homes, and it was based on climate and food availability. So
it does make sense.
Yep. But, all right, let's.
Real quick, Dan, are there any other cryptids you investigate?
I have chosen, well, not actually been a choice. I am limited to studying really the one that is evolutionarily plausible. Mothman, pretty much anything else on that list requires appealing to more unknowns to explain an unknown. And so, again, it's kind of like the paranormal part of it. If I can't measure it, I just leave it alone. I don't discount people's experiences, especially when there are so many that are so similar.
Right.
Although there's other ways to account for that similarity, similar language, cultural transmission, that sort of thing. But no, I just stick with Bigfoot, and that's a plateful by itself.
Good deal. Good
All
deal.
righty. All
Thanks,
right,
Dan.
let's reboot
Thank
this.
you.
Here we go.
Wow. We did an extended version here. That's great.
Hey.
We appreciate having you again, Dan, and thanks to everybody over in the chat. We appreciate you guys. If it's your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash the thumbs up button if you hadn't already, because it helps us in the algorithm, and God, don't you know we need help. Okay, we're struggling here. Okay,
I need help.
but thanks you guys. We know we got the greatest audience in the world. Thank you so much. This is only possible because of you, and we know that, and we appreciate you so very much. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, folks, I want to thank Dan Kegley for coming on tonight. Again, check his website out. It's scrolling on the bottom down there at Estonia Investigations -investigations.org. Go visit that site. Give him some love. And again, like Chris said, give us some love. Give us a thumbs up. Share the show with a friend. You know, sharing is caring. And we have the world's best audience. We love you guys. And thank you. And like I said, for the membership side, we will be doing a seminar sometime next week. The reason why is the following week I'm in class myself for a week, so I will not be available pretty much except to do the show. But again, we love you guys. You're the best audience in the world, hands down. And we will catch you all Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Squatch-D TV. Love you guys. Be safe. Keep healthy. God bless. And of course,
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch-D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch-D TV. Keep on squatching.